Kilbane, good morning to you.
Good morning, Adrian. How are you keeping?
What part of the world are you in?
I'm in Dublin.
Good man. What was the Mason Greenwood is the big story from the game last night?
Yeah, it wasn't the greatest of games. I think United dominated the game really, and in fairness, Greenwood didn't have the greatest of games himself. I think he looked like he was outpowered a lot of the time. He probably didn't look strong enough physically to deal with Astana at times, but Ole Gunnar Solskjaer in the lead up to the game said he's the best finisher that he's seen, and it was a really good finish on his weaker right foot. He went for power through the goalkeeper's leg, so it was a good finish. But
I heard that comment, and is that just a load of nonsense? I heard that comment and I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, it probably was a lot of nonsense. It's probably something to give the young lad a little bit of confidence, I would imagine, though, really. But he took his goal well. That's the thing. He's obviously a very good finisher, but we've heard that comment about so many different players over the years, haven't we? And I just think it was maybe a bit of a throwaway line from Solskjaer, I think, in the lead up to the game when he was asked the question about who was going to be starting the game, and a lot of those youngsters did start.
Just let me ask you one more on Mason Greenwood. He's been obviously at the club since he was 6. I heard Marcus Rashford talk about him glowingly afterwards as well, and how he can, when you come through that structure from that age, how you actually get very used to dealing with the pressure. Outside of the goal, how was he?
No, that's what I'm saying. I said before, he actually struggled overall. His hold-up play wasn't the greatest, but you have to give him the leeway that he's a 17, 18-year-old kid that's coming into the fray there last night, and he hasn't got a lot of game time on his hands. And Astana played it in a way, Adrian, where they went to United and really attacked. They had a few moments in the game where they maybe capitalised on a couple of errors from Phil Jones, but when a lot of the balls were being fired into Greenwood, he was losing possession. That was the same for Angel Gomez, for Chong. Rashford did okay. I think he was one that was trying to make it happen for United, but I think in general, United's front 3 or 4 players, their attacking players, misfired, I felt, overall in the night.
Those quotes from Ole Gunnar Solskjaer about Mason Greenwood very much following a pattern of recent weeks of talking up these young players, and it does feel as though it's very much a PR strategy, this sort of battle for hearts and minds of United supporters of, the future's never looked better and I'm giving these players a chance, where the reality is United need to deliver this season, that Solskjaer can push it all he wants into, I'm the best man to develop these young players in the Manchester United way. You wonder how long he can get away with that.
Yeah, good morning, Adrian. Great to see you in studio.
I'm Nathan.
I think I think there's a lot of PR spin, I think, coming from him at the moment, isn't there? Because of that, I think he recognises that his team's in a bit of a hole. That they're not playing great football going forward. I think what he has done, I think, in the last month or so, with the way that things are going for them, United look really poor at the back. I think he's just tried to solidify them defensively, make them a little bit more difficult to beat, and don't concede. Look, if we're going to win a game, lads, we can't be going through matches where we're going to have to score 2 and 3 goals to win a match. We have to get clean sheets, right? So fair play to him for doing that. But I genuinely think that the young players are probably not of the level of 1 or 2 other clubs' young players. I do think that there's maybe several other teams that have got better young, or certainly a lot more prominent younger players that are playing at under 21 level for the country, that are certainly playing at a really good level. And I think that's where United are. United are just in a position at the moment where you're watching them thinking, look, it's the Neely men rather than actually players that's going to step in. These young players I'm talking, where they're going to be players that's going to step in. And Greenwood, is he going to be a top striker for United in years to come? Hopefully, yes. But at the moment, he doesn't look the player that's going to be that's going to really step up and score 15, 20 goals. He's certainly not the level of Tammy Abraham at the moment, no.
Like we always talk about it, Nathan is sort of couching it in a way that needs must almost from a United point of view, that they have been left almost with no other option and they have to start bringing these players through. And you've mentioned Chelsea, and there's a lot of the same thing happening there, but like suddenly those players are starting to sign 5-year deals at 5 times the amount of money, and suddenly there's this value on them that there wouldn't have been if Chelsea didn't have had that ban that they would have brought players in. Like, it's almost surprising in some ways that these top clubs aren't acknowledging the amazing, even if you just look at them as commodities, that they have in their books. And even as I said, they wouldn't have got those opportunities if the ban wasn't in place, or Greenwood wouldn't have gotten that opportunity if United had bought a bunch of players to, like, that. It's not more of a policy that these clubs aren't trying to get those players involved just as part of their policy. It's surprising to me.
No, I know. It isn't. We've heard of the talent that's been around Man City and Chelsea, especially. Those two have been the top youth teams over the last 10 years, especially Chelsea. And that has been the criticism that's been labelled against Conte, Mourinho, you name the manager in Chelsea over the last 10 years, who's been able to develop this talent, and no one has been able to develop them. So you're right, it has been needs must this year for Chelsea. City have got an amazing pool of talent within their ranks as well. Yet there's maybe only Phil Foden that's around the first team now. That is it. There's nobody else that's going to be breaking through into City's first team. And you mentioned there about maybe recognising the value. Chelsea and City, especially more so Chelsea, have used the youth team as a way to finance the youth department. They've signed the best young players in Europe and the world, and they're selling players on for big money at youth level, and that's what they've done. And maybe they say we're United. I don't see the players that I've seen come breaking through for United in the last year, 18 months or so, at the level that I've seen Chelsea and Man City players. No, and maybe even one or two other players that have been breaking through at other clubs as well. They're not at that level, but that's where United are. United maybe have the same needs must. Don't sign players. Give the players the break. Give them some game time, and hopefully it works out for you. That's the way it is for United. It seems to me at the moment, again with United, it's just a little bit. We're trying to get to the level. We're trying without necessarily having the tools to do so.
We've seen an awful lot of very young, exciting, attacking players in European football this week. Just last night I was working on the PSV Eindhoven game. Daniel Malen, 20 years of age, scored 5 at the weekend in the Eredivisie for PSV. Scored again last night in their win over Sporting Lisbon, like lightning quick. A player who was actually at Arsenal, 4 years at Arsenal, and they let him go to PSV Eindhoven, and sort of player you can see returning to Arsenal for a big fee over the next while. You still have the likes of David Neres, only 22 at Ajax. Alfie Haaland's son scoring that hat-trick for Salzburg during the week. Like, this is the breeding ground, and probably always has been, I guess, that the finishing destination is the Premier League. But you do just wonder, with what the likes of Mason Mount and Tammy Abraham have done this season, like, should the Premier League clubs be trusting youth more often?
Yes, in a word, yes, definitely, because the talent has always been there, and it's because the Premier League has such uses or makes it more important to go out and sign the best players around, and they'd rather the way that it is. It's almost as if when we see stepping stones. You mentioned that a lot of the players there that have gone on and done well. They'd rather sign a player, or even allow another team to sign a player, so they can play 50 games, and then they'd rather pay 40 million for them once they're proven, rather than go, I'll tell you what, we'll go on, if we're going to sign a player that's one of the best in European football at youth level, we'll go and pay 5 or 6 million for them, but give him that chance. You only need to look at Kevin De Bruyne, Mo Salah, all these players that come out of good clubs when they were younger. Romelu Lukaku would have been another one that was signed by Chelsea, didn't necessarily get game time, sent out on loan. There's so many that have come through the structures at Chelsea and various other clubs that haven't been given the game time, haven't been given the chance, when clearly they have the talent, clearly they do, and they probably need 15 games under the belt. And that's what Mason Mount will get, that's what Tammy Abraham will get, and that's only down to necessity or because they've got no other option, Chelsea. That's why they're doing it. They probably wouldn't have done that if Lampard had 200 million, 300 million to spend. I think his priority would have been go out and sign a striker, go and sign a player that's going to go and get me 25 goals, probably go and sign a midfielder, a creative midfielder with Hazard leaving. But they weren't able to do it. So I think they've given Mount a chance. They've given them a chance. And as I said, the talent has been there. But that's what's affecting maybe us. It's affecting Ireland, because the young lads aren't getting chances anymore. Because they've used the method of just going out to sign the best around. That's what's having the knock-on effect, and the effect is across Scotland, Wales, Ireland, and of course it's affected England as well over the years, and that's where we are. But England, of course, have ploughed that much money. The Premier League have ploughed so much money into the system since, I think, 2011, since the EPPP system came in. Since that system has come in, they've ploughed so much money into youth football. That's where England are getting the benefits now at under 21, under 19s, and senior international level.
English football is probably slightly changing in the moment, as well as that we see the likes of Jadon Sancho going to Borussia Dortmund. A lot of their young players from the big academies are starting to experience European football because it is one of the massive benefits. So in England, players go from the Premier League down to the Championship, a very similar style of football. In Ireland, we know this, all our players go to Championship clubs, the one style of football. You look at what young players at the likes of Lille, at PSV, even clubs further down the European rankings, the experience they're getting of going up against the likes of a Sporting Lisbon or like a continental, different style of football pretty much every time you play. Like what that must do for your footballing education, rather than Championship football, 100 miles an hour, like learning how to play on the biggest stage at a very young age.
Yeah,
like it's something that we
experimenting is not a thing. That's probably the fundamental reason behind all of this conversation that we've just been having for the last whatever number of minutes about giving youth its chance. That clubs don't want to take the chance. They want to be assured of somebody that can come in. They're happy to be assured of somebody that can come in and score 15 goals rather than take a chance on somebody they think might be able to score 25.
Yeah, right. And like Kevin has spoken about Tammy Abraham, who now has scored 7 goals in his last 3 Premier League games. The criticism he took after the first day of the season against Manchester United, we were there at Old Trafford, like he hit the post after 4 minutes against United, that goes in, like, God knows how that game would have gone for both clubs.
Yeah.
But like the level of stick, because he was a young English player who'd had a bad time at Swansea, was totally disproportionate to what a player should get. So like that probably is part of the problem as well, that everybody is ultra critical of these younger players, the supporters as much as anybody.
Yeah.
So they talk about wanting to give a chance, but they don't actually want to do it in practice.
Kev, will you talk to us about, obviously the Chelsea-Liverpool game on Sunday is a big part of our focus. We've got our A commentary team on that one. Nathan's going to be there alongside Brian Kerr for the 4:30.
No doubt.
First choice commentary team on duty. The penalty situation during the week, and it's not really so much the penalty itself, because I mean Ross Barkley's we're told, designated penalty taker, and he's on the bench. Personally, I have no issue with that. He's not deemed good enough to start, but it doesn't mean that he's not the best penalty taker in the squad, so I wouldn't have any huge issue with that. But you do have this situation again where you have 3 players on the pitch debating about who should be taking this penalty, and for me it comes back to Frank Lampard, and clearly there was a lack of clarity about who should be the main penalty taker. Is this just another, we need to cut Lampard a bit of slack because he's still just cutting his teeth on it, or does it point to something, a bit greater issue there?
Oh, it's not so much a greater issue, but I just don't understand. Solskjaer said it, of course, this year with Pogba and Rashford. The level of preparation, the level of detail that managers are going into now, getting the teams prepared. I find it amazing that they're coming out afterwards and there's some sort of I don't know, concern over who's going to be taking the penalties. It's crazy to me because, as I was saying, the level of detail that's there, they have to get it in place and make sure he's my penalty taker. That's it. If your man's not on the pitch, like whoever it would be, then somebody else is taking the penalties. It's naturally always been the case. There's a penalty taker, one designated taker. If he's not on the pitch, then I suppose it's a bit of a different argument. But it's always been the case. It's crazy. It's crazy that things are going otherwise, or that it's been going like this even with Lampard. I think Solskjaer maybe. Well, I think he waffled a little bit really himself when he was talking about Pogba and Rashford. There's one penalty taker in my mind, and that's it.
Yeah. Just before you go, in a word, Liverpool or Chelsea?
Liverpool. I think Liverpool win it. I think they're on form, and I can't see them going down there and not scoring. I think they'll win the game. Yeah,
Lampard could be on thin ice. We shall see. Kev, thanks a million as always for taking the call.
Cheers. Be back in studio next week, hopefully. Anyway, with the proper presenters. Anyway, good luck. All the best. All the best.
Wow.
Well, we haven't seen all the best. He says. As we're wraps it up. We haven't seen you in so long, Kev. We don't even remember what he looks like.
That's a cold shoulder there, isn't he?
Unbelievable sort of level of abuse.
Wow.
Who are these proper presenters he's talking about? Are you not one of them? Is that?
Well, the fact that he has attempted to come into studio was a shock to me. I haven't seen him in here in about 6 months.
I said Lampard was skating on thin ice. I can tell you something.
Kilbane as well, yeah.